Hi everyone. Today we're going to create a little app, great for beginners, that switches our theme from light to dark. So if you take a look here, you see we have our light theme and we have a nice little circle, square, nothing fancy. And we have a button or a toggle label here that we're going to use to toggle back and forth. If I click on this button, there we go. We get a different theme. We get a dark theme, dark background, changes our font, changes the colors of our shapes as well. Pretty simple. We're only going to use HTML, CSS. So let's get started. I'm going to move this over here so that you can have a live view of what's going on. And if I toggle back, we have our light theme again. Okay. So I've already created my index.html page and my style.css page. We're going to start with our index.html page. So if you click Shift, click your bang or exclamation point, and then click Tab, it should give you a default HTML page. Let me spread this out a little bit so you can see it better here. And there we go. And there is another way to do this, just in case you don't know, which is to type HTML:5 and hit Tab like that, and you still get your default page. So let's get to it. We're going to change our title to toggle theme, save it, change our body to just an H1 right now that says hello world, like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run a live server. You see right here, go live. I'm going to click on this button here so that I can see in my browser as I create. See this, hello world? That's what we just did. Now, the idea behind this may be a little bit tricky for our heads, but you'll understand it as we go along. So just follow along with me right now. The first thing we're going to do is create a checkbox, and it's an input. Now, this input is not going to be seen, and I'll explain that to you in just a little bit. So let's just type checkbox. ID is going to equal toggle. This is going to be what we actually toggle on. Now we're going to create something called a div. Inside our div, we're going to give it a class of wrapper. And this is going to wrap all of our info. Next, we're going to give it an H1. And we're going to say switch light / dark. And we see it on our page already. And you can see there's our little checkbox right here for now. We're eventually going to hide that, but you'll see how that works in just a little bit. Now let's create what I call a shape wrapper. We're going to create something that wraps our shapes. We're going to do that by typing div, and we're going to give it an ID. If I just type a # like this, I can automatically create my ID, and I'm going to call it shape wrapper. Tab. And inside of that, I'm going to create another div. For my circle, we create div, give it an ID of big circle, like this, tab. And we're not going to put anything in it. We're going to create these shapes using CSS and not HTML. So we're just going to have empty divs for now. We're going to create one more div for our square, same way, div pound big square, tab, like that. Nothing inside of that as well. Okay, so let's step outside of that div, that shape wrapper div. And now what we're going to do is create the button that we will use to toggle in between our themes. And we're going to do that using a label, not a button. So we can say label like that. And you see here, Emmet, I have that installed. Emmet, it's an extension. It helps me to choose what I want. I'm going to choose this label, click tab, and we immediately get the for. And the for us is going to be toggle. And if you'll notice, this toggle here is actually going to relate to this toggle here, which means when we hide our checkbox, we're going to use this label here to click our checkbox, so to speak. You'll see when we get to the CSS a little bit better. Now we're going to create a div with a class. So we use a period called names tab, like that. And inside of our div, we are going to create a paragraph with a class called light. And inside that paragraph, we're going to say toggle. The reason we're using paragraph is because you'll see in a bit, but paragraph has natural margins and paddings that we don't have to do any kind of extra styling for. So that helps us out a little bit, and that will be clearer when we get to the style.css. Speaking of which, we should also bring in our style.css page before we move on. So I'm going to say link, hit the tab, and we called it style.css. So we do it like that, and that should help us use any external CSS that we create, which we're about to do right now. And I see I have a typo here, so let's go back, click that dark, and let's just say theme here as well, like that, okay? All right, so now I'm going to switch over to my style.css page, and we're going to start creating our design for our page. So we're going to start with the body. And first of all, I want to get rid of any kind of default margins and paddings that the browser gives us. That way it gives us more control over our styles. We do our box sizing, border box, and then we're going to give it a very basic font family, Arial, and whatever it suggests here. Just something simple for us to work with right now. So it still doesn't look like anything over here for now, but we're going to get to it. And then after we create it, we'll see what we did. Let's handle our wrapper. Remember the wrapper that we created right here, right? It wraps all of our shapes. So we're going to handle that. Dot wrapper. That means that dot there means we're going to handle the wrapper class in CSS. This body here handles the body element, right? This is an element, but this right here is a class inside of our div. So we're going to handle this wrapper by saying width 100 VW, and 100 VW means 100% of the view width, the width that we are seeing in here. We want it to cross the whole page, so to speak. We're going to give it a height. Same thing, 100 view height, and that height is going to take up the whole page as well. Then we're going to give it a background color, and this is going to be the default background color for our light. I'm just going to give you a number in hex that I chose before we started this video. And then we're going to use something called flex. If you don't know flex, flex is a way for us to control our CSS, and you can look it up a little bit, but we're going to use it right now. Display :flex. Then we have to handle the flex direction because we want our items to list in a column, one on top of the other. We want this to list in a column. We want our shapes to list in a column. If you remember here, this will be a column, this, then this. We want it in that order, and that's what we're handling right now. So I'll go back to the theme we're creating. So we're going to say flex direction column. And then we want to justify and align our items. And what we mean by that is we want all of this to be in the center of the page. So we want it to justify to the center of the page horizontally, and we want it to align in the center of the page vertically. And with flex, we're able to do that by saying justify content center. Then we align the items center. And that's going to put things directly in the center of the page. Look at that. And we've already got some of our styles applying here. See, our checkbox is still showing. We'll hide that in a little bit, but already these are stacking on top of each other, right? The theme and the toggle. And that's enough right now for our wrapper. So our first shape is going to be, oh, before we do the shape, let's go ahead and actually create our shape wrapper, right? We created the shape wrapper here that is going to wrap around our circle and our square. So it's going to wrap around this part right here. Okay. We have an ID called shape wrapper. We're going to say again, display flex. We always say display flex when we want to use our flex functionality. Next, we have flex direction. And this time we are going to say row because we want, if you look here, we want these shapes to be next to each other, right? We don't want them to be on top of each other. We want them to be next to each other. So we're going to say row for this. And we're just going to give it a margin bottom of 50 pixels. And that'll set this apart from the button that we create later on. Or the label, actually. Okay, so let's create our big circle and our big square. Now, the big circle and the big square are going to have a lot in common. However, they're going to have one or two differences. But we're first going to create the things that we have in common, which means we can combine the two. So we have big circle like this, and when we combine, we can use a comma to say we want to apply these values for a big circle and for the big square. We're going to give them both a height of 150 pixels, a width of 150 pixels, and a margin of 30 pixels so that we don't bump them up against each other. And let's save. You're not going to see anything yet, but you're going to see we've created the space here for it. But we haven't applied any real values for us to see it yet, but we will in just a moment. Let's do it now. Big circle. We'll start there. Our big circle, actually no. Let's start with big square, just so you can see the differences. If we create a big square, give it a border, a background, color of, let's say here, 80080. That's a color that I picked, and look at that. We already have a nice color there. And that's all we need for big square. Now for big circle, just to show you there's only a minor difference between the big circle and the big square. We create our big circle. Let's first do the background color again. And let's give it a value of 00008B. Now, if you take a look, looks like we have two squares, and we do. But we can change that with a very simple value. There's something called border radius, and what that does is it rounds the corners of a value or of anything that you apply it to. For example, I could just say 10 pixels, and it would mildly round the corners, if you see here, of my square. And you see that a lot online. However, we want a circle, so there's a nifty little trick, and a cool little trick that we can use where we apply 50% like this, and that's going to create a circle for us, because if we take 50% of everything, it's basic math. Don't make me try to do math. That's another video. So next, we're going to work with our label. That's this button right down here. We're going to say label. We're going to give it a width of 40%. We're going to give it a height. Sorry, Emmett is helping me a little too much there. A width of 40%, a height of 45 pixels. A background color again, and this color I picked is 81C999, like that. Okay, so we have a little something showing up there. It's not quite what we want, but not bad for now. And we are going to make our cursor change when we hover over the button. We do that by saying cursor, and we turn it into a pointer, like that. That just means that when we begin to hover over this, and you'll see it in a bit, it will change to a pointer. It won't quite do it yet. And this we're going to give a smaller border radius. We're going to say border radius. How much do we want here? Border radius, we'll say 10 pixels for that. How about that? And get rid of that one semicolon and there. Still not quite what we want yet, but we're working on it. Next, we have a names. I think we called it names. Yeah, we called our class names. So we're going to use that. And inside of that, we're going to handle our toggle. We're going to give it a font size of 17 pixels. There are several ways to do fonts. You can use pix, you can use EM, you can use REM, different ways. Today we're just going to use basic pix. We're going to give it a font weight, and that's where we're going to handle our bold. You can give it a number as well, but for now we're just going to make it bold. We're going to say display flex again, like before, because we want to move our word to the center of the label, and we aren't doing that yet. So we'll say display flex. This time we will justify the content, and we will say center, because we want it to be in the center of that button. And boom, there it is already. And then finally, we're just going to control the user select and say none, like that. Okay, so we have our basic page here looking good. We still have that checkbox that we can check and uncheck. Everything's looking good, but it's not quite doing what we want, right? We're just checking. However, notice if I click this toggle button, look what happens up here. That checks. If I click it again, it unchecks. And that's what controls the basic functionality of how we're going to change our themes. We just need to apply a few more things. So I'm going to do it in a different order than I expected, but let's do it. We're going to use something in CSS called the brackets. And these brackets, when you use them, control everything that you find based on the values that you give. So we're going to say type equals checkbox, because what we want to do is handle the toggle of our checkbox up here. And we gave it a type right here, remember, in our HTML. So we're going to say type checkbox. That means look for everything that's in checkbox. And when it's checked, and we add a plus, I want you to take the wrapper, because here, this is the wrapper. That's what's going to change our whole background color. So I want you to take the wrapper, and I want you to change the background color to, and here's a value I chose as well, 26242E. Now you don't need to use my values. It's just values that I picked. You can always choose your own and kind of personalize it for yourself. And we also want to change our font color, right? It's black right now, but we want it to change to white. So we say color, that changes our font color. And I'm just going to use, here I've been using hexagonal. Down here you also have the ability to just use words for your colors. It's okay to do sometimes. Values tend to be better, but words can be appropriate at certain times. So that handles that. Still nothing happening. Actually, our background does already change. Look at that. Our color for our font changes and our background changes. We want a little bit more though, because we don't want to see this checkbox up here, and we want these colors in our square and our circle also to change, right? Let's handle the big circle first. So we're going to say type equals checkbox again. And we remember that means everything with the type of checkbox, right? And if it is checked, we want to go, and we're going to drill down here into the wrapper. We drill into our shape wrapper, which is wrapping our shapes. And then we go to the big circle. And we want our big circle to turn yellow. So I'm going to say background color. We know that by heart now. And we'll use words for now. Yellow, like this. So if I test it, our circle is turning yellow now. We like that. And let's do the same thing with our square. We can actually copy and paste. Sorry, can you see this code? Here we go. We can actually copy and paste, but change this big circle to big square. And then we're just going to change the color. And our color is going to be red for that one. Red. Finally, we want this toggle button to change color as well. We want it to be black. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to take this right here, copy it, paste it down here. After wrapper, we're going to say label. And then we're going to get rid of this color right here, just get rid of it. And we're going to take our background color and we're going to change that to black, just like that. So now when we go over here and we click on our button, we should see everything change. Toggle is white color, switch light dark, font is white, our shape circle is yellow, and our square is red. But we're still seeing this checkbox. We don't want to see that, right? So let's get rid of it. We can actually just use a simple trick to get rid of it. We're going to take our type again, equals checkbox, display none, like that. And if you watch over here, after we do that, disappeared. Just so you see, I'm going to comment it out. There's our checkbox sitting up top. If I uncomment, gone again. And now we've created our app. Look at that. And if I open it, you have a full toggle app. Okay, hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you next time.